it's outside, like, start answering record questions, I think. And then it just went from there and, they found and like great programs like, book clubs and art and craft. They've been doing it for years. I know that they serve some other correctional facilities in the area, but I know that our library has correctional.
No secret conversations going on here. Whole room.
No, I mean, in any other rooms?
No, no, no.
Oh, shoot.
handling your divorce, if that has to happen. You don't want your real estate attorney who's helping you purchase or move land, come in and help you with your I don't know, your business licensing. There's some very nuanced, specific areas of the law, and once you get in those, generally, you're in that's your lane, and you don't wanna be giving advice in other areas. As a matter of fact, the state doesn't, doesn't allow you to, really. So I decided to pivot and go from criminal work to municipal law. And municipal law is kind of the law that touches most people the most. That's your local government law. I advise my council at the time, the city of Bel Air. So I worked for the city of Bel Air as a city attorney. So I advise the governing body and work through their real estate deals, advise their HR department, wrote the ordinances that they wanted to pass. So they're working on something, kind of came up with the language for the ordinances. And that was just a totally different area of the law, very interesting. Again, very local. You're hearing what people want and you're having to turn that into law or explain why it can't happen. So I did that for a few years and then I transitioned to Derby because I wanted to kind of serve in a bigger role. Bel Air is a smaller city. It's very active, had a lot going on, but Derby gave me a chance to kind of work on STAR bonds and other kind of statewide issues. So did that for a while, felt good, felt well-rounded. Then the opportunity came to run for judge. And after much prayer, I thought, okay, I think I can do this. And I didn't expect that I would have opponents. I just kind of thought, I'm gonna file, no one else is filing. It'll be great. I'll be the person on the ballot. And personally, our kids were older now, so just balancing family and all that. It was a good time because our youngest was 15 this last year and it looked like she was on the straight and narrow. Our son was a senior in high school and our oldest was in college. So I was like, this is a good time to do it. And it'll be easy. We talk about putting ourselves out there. So I filed and within that time, we had 4 other people file. Or 3 other people filed, sorry, in that same race. So I went from just wanting to serve in the community, thinking I'll do it this way, to having to learn about campaigning, having to consider what it took to talk to. Sedgwick County is how many people? Like about
500,000.
500,000 people, like how to connect with people. I had to pick a party. I had to serve in a partisan way because that's just how judicial races are.
That's what.
I had to kind of take those things that you kind of get to privately have those conversations with your friends at dinner or whatever, and kind of have them with my neighbors like out front. And so it was a challenging. I had to raise money, and that's not my bag. I haven't had to do that in my practice. I haven't had to go after business. So it was a huge learning experience for me. And I think as community members, I'm so glad that you all are here. You all are engaged people. I think it's so interesting if you ever decide to cross that line and serve in some sort of elected position. I just say, press on, do it. I have so much respect now for people who put themselves out in that way. You kind of take for granted that they're serving and they're running again, but man, you really are putting yourselves out there. We hit about, I want to say 5,000, but I'm going to cut it back and say like 3,000 doors as a team over the time. And so you're meeting people who talk for hours, people who want to talk about things in the past, and you're having to make a connection, ask for their vote, and keep going. And then this past summer, think about all the things going on. Think about how people feel about the justice system. And the role of a judge is supposed to be fair and impartial. So I should be able to talk to any one of you at your door and gain confidence from you that I'm going to be fair, I'm going to hear the case, and I'm going to follow the law. But people generally want to talk about other things. So we're trying to stay away from those kind of issues that you all get to talk about as neighbors, but I get to just follow the law with, was hard. Handling a campaign budget, when everybody's like, you need more signs out there, your opponent has signs, and you've only budgeted, $1,000 for signs, you have to raise money to get those signs out, you have to have volunteers. But I'm here to tell you that Sedgwick County is incredible. I had a lot of support from many different groups. I think most people were hungry for someone who was active in the community already, who valued Sedgwick County and wasn't like thinking of all these other things or other goals, and who was committed to fairness, who they sensed individually was a fair, reasonable person. So I feel like I got the support I needed and was just able to do more than I could imagine. Thank God for that. And then we made it through that primary, and so primary was August 6th. So now we're in the general election. I'm the only name on the ballot. So now I'm really trying to think about ways, and I thank Councilmember Johnson for helping me thinking about the ways that I need to connect to the community. Like the judge should not be off in this. When you're on the bench, you have that black robe on, and that symbolizes that you, the person, Jackie, no, you are now a servant of the court. It's a very solemn oath. You're serving under that oath, and you're listening. You're impartial. So that role is something that I'm stepping into, but also being knowledgeable about the community. I live on the northeast side of town, close to Andover. That's not the only area I'm gonna be serving. I'm gonna be serving the southwest, the southeast, Colwich, all these communities. So it's important that I am in the communities, that I understand the resources available to different people coming from the community. So for instance, if I'm in the juvenile department, I need to know what resources are available to the children in the communities. We can have them restored. We can give them opportunities to be on the Mayor's Youth Commission or have a mentor, someone who they connect with who's on the Mayor's Youth Commission. We can connect them to churches and groups that are available for them. And in order to do that properly, I think I need to be plugged in the spaces that I'm serving rather than at a distance. So, and my husband and I have always been community people, but I think it's even now more incumbent for me to be involved and to meet with people. And I'm happy to connect with anyone who has ideas about what rehabilitative services we have or thoughts about our justice system here in local Sedgwick County, or questions. So that's why I'm here. I wanted to extend that process to you. And thank you for putting me in that position to serve you all. So, any questions? Yes.
So I have to say, that was the only race that was contested in the primary. So I looked all of you up and I was like, no. Yes. I saw you as a fair person rather than some of them who clearly had agendas. So I knew that you were the person to vote for. I couldn't vote because we're not of the same party. But I made sure that everybody knew that you were the person to support.
Thank you.
Because I could see that in you. And I was very impressed.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that, and I hope to serve you proudly on the other side of it.
So from you transitioning from a lawyer to a judge, when you're wanting to be a judge, how long, like, is there a certain length of time before you can apply to be a judge? Like, what is that time frame?
That's a good question, and I'm sorry, I meant to bring that up because I want people, first thing is law school, our nearest law school is Washburn. And I'm surprised at how many people are legally minded that probably should be going to law school that aren't, even maybe in this room. So let me tell you about how to become a judge, just briefly, and I'll include the answer. So you have to go to undergrad, so you finish high school, you have to finish those 4 years of an undergrad degree. Any topic, you don't have to specialize in political science or pre-law to go to law school. As a matter of fact, law schools now are looking at well-rounded people, like a musician might be a good lawyer for, I won't say music law, but just different thinking patterns, different
Intellectual property.
yes, and maybe intellectual property because they maybe write music and such. A person who's majoring in sports medicine might be very interested in sports law because they're in that industry. So undergrad, pick whatever you want to major in, do that. Then afterwards, you don't go to grad school and get your master's, you go directly to law school. That's a 3-year program. It's generally standard across the country. And let me tell you, the first year, you are taking the same 5 courses as probably Thomas Jefferson and other lawyers way back then. It's a very rigid school. It's not like, your master's at one college might focus on this or might have these applied classes. Law school, everybody takes criminal law, constitution law, evidence. Like there are certain classes that every lawyer takes and they're based on historical, the legal common law, legal historical law. So, and then as you kind of go through that 3rd year, there's a little bit more flexibility if you want to specialize. But that's a unique thing about law school. Then when you finish law school, you have to practice as an attorney. So that bar test I told you about, you have to take that. I studied for it for 2.5 months and it was a very grueling process, but I'm very average. And if I could study and do it, anybody could do it. It just takes a lot. It was like 10-hour days, locked in a basement, studying. That's what it was. But then when you finish the bar exam, you have to practice for 10 years to be eligible to be a county judge. And then after that, you can, it's either 8 or 10 years. Because one of them is 8 years. Sedgwick County Judge, I think it's either 8 or 10 years. You have to practice law, but have a license for 8 or 10 years. And then after that, you can just apply. I think there is an age cutoff. I think you have to be 32, just like we talked about. You can't be 16 anymore and be a judge or be a governor. So there's an age requirement. You have to practice for a certain number of years, and then you have to be in good standing bar association. So those are the steps, and then you can run. And in Sedgwick County, we're elected. Now, take a few minutes. So county judges, picture Sedgwick County, all the 18 or 17 cities in Sedgwick County. That's my jurisdiction. I will be handling felonies, misdemeanors committed in the county. Now, in those counties, there are cities, of course. There's Wichita, I keep going to Colwich because I have no idea about Colwich until the campaign and I was out there a lot. Valley Center, Bays, Derby, Bel Air, I can go on. Clearwater. Clearwater, did somebody say Clearwater? Yep, Goddard. We just go on and on. All those cities are in Sedgwick County.
There are 20 cities in Sedgwick County.
20, okay, thank you. That's a lot to me. I lived in an area with 7 cities. Those cities were big, but there were only 7. So 20 cities in Sedgwick County. Each city handles their own misdemeanors and local ordinances. So Wichita has an ordinance saying, no drinking past 10 p.m. and it doesn't conflict with state law, that's completely. Then if a Wichita officer stops you for that, you're going to the city courthouse and one of their judges will adjudicate the case. If a person were to commit a felony in Wichita, that's going to Sedgwick County, right? If a person were to commit a misdemeanor and be stopped by a sheriff, or have a misdemeanor as a part of the felony, that's coming to the county. So there's kind of an overlap there, but we have 2 court jurisdictions. One is city and one is county, and they overlap, basically. And the city judges are appointed by the council members. So you could be a judge through Wichita, and you would apply, there's an opening, and then the council would consider and decide whether or not to appoint.
So questions in a couple of different areas. So I first learned about you at Juneteenth. I went to your booth and talked to Corinthian. I was thrilled. Oh my gosh, a Black woman for judge. And then I got this stuff and it's just like, oh, she's in a Republican. So,
Yeah. You were the first person who.
yeah. And I guess I just wanted to share my reaction. So I was like a little concerned. I have I have 5 kids, but I have 3 sons, right? And so I am so concerned with the mass incarceration of Black men. And you were a prosecutor and now you're a judge. So think there's that, and maybe you can make me feel better about that. And then there's this other thing. I had lunch once with Mark Bennett, and I just couldn't understand how so many things, particularly kind of around police violence, were just going towards the police, right? And I couldn't understand that. He explained to me the Kansas Stand Your Ground law, and he was just following the law, you know, where I felt like it's pretty clear, it looks like it's police violence and this guy shouldn't be dead. But anyway, if you can talk about concerns that, you know, my family, I have, and probably people in this community have, about mass incarceration of Black men, and what part maybe you're trying to help remove that needle where it's not so bad. And if anything we can do about this stand your ground, so bad apples really can't get away with nonsense on the police.
Yeah, I can speak about both from a, maybe more personal perspective.
Because you, well, and that's fine, because you are a person on the bench.
Right, on the
Yeah.
bench, well, on the bench, I have to follow it. Right, and then it's up to the attorneys who are in the room. Picking your attorney is important. The attorneys who are in the room to present the right law, advocate, to possibly work together to come up with solutions. So that's one thing. Mass incarceration of Black men. I think that we are in a difficult space with that, and I have to kind of think about, you know, I never want to say anything that's gonna make someone think that when they stand before me in court, I'm gonna have a bias that's gonna not favor them. So I wanna be really thoughtful in how I answer this question. I'm gonna say our community, meaning the Black community, I think we have opportunities to now with so many things brought to light and so many things at the forefront, we have opportunities to get involved. And I think the way that I can either sit on the sidelines and critique processes and things and decisions, or can go to law school, I can put aside my private life and get in and serve with a fair heart, and, you know, commitment and diligence to serve the people before me. So I think as people get more involved in different systems and processes, that can only be good. But it takes the work. It takes, you know, Councilmember Johnson could be in the private sector, making money, sitting in an office on the top floor in corporate. I mean, I see how he works with numbers. He's brilliant and live his best life. But he has decided to sacrifice that, get in the ring and serve. I have decided the same. So I think you're in a place where more and more people are deciding to serve. And that's the best thing for any community when you become a part of the system, if you want to call it that.
It's just a little discouraging. I'm 65. I'm not likely to go to law school, and I certainly don't have, you know, 10 years to really make the difference. And,
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, I do have a son in law school, and that's great, but darn. So like from an advocacy point of view, I'm kind of hearing there's not much we can do.
Oh, no. I'm speaking about what I chose to do.
Oh, okay.
Advocacy work, I mean, there are 3 branches of government. The judicial has a role, and I put on that robe, and that is my role. But legislative, I mean, a lot of the things that change are laws. And so if you're passionate about any law, you need to talk to your legislators. Go to Topeka. That's how you get laws changed. Funding, you know, for these laws. So there used to be a program called the Boys Ranch, and something went down with it. It ended up closing. But when that closed and nothing replaced it, the opportunities for juveniles to be put into programs alternative to custody shrank. And it was for boys. So that cut down the opportunities for boys. A legislature could build, you can talk to Topeka, go to Topeka, take buses of people to Topeka, invest in alternative options for juveniles. Another great program, mental health things. And I'm very excited about mental health programs coming online. If we spend our money in mental health care, maybe so many people will have other options than to just be on the street, get picked up for something and then be in custody. So as an advocate, I think there are a lot of options. I didn't mean to say everybody needs to go to law school and do these things. I meant to say, remember there's legislative branch and through the lawmaking branch, you can do a lot. And then the other two branches are more like kind of people who come into that system, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
You talked about Mark Bennett and
Stand your ground.
Stand Your Ground. You're saying that he's kind of limited in following the law. Can you remind me your question?
Well, no, it's really, I mean, there have been some, whether it's people killed or hurt by the police, and charges haven't been brought, and Mark, said, well, he's following the law to stand your ground.
Yeah.
And so he could not pursue charges because of stand your ground. And that's, kind of discouraging, because then that kind of just gives bad players in the police department kind of a pass.
Well, I hope it doesn't. I hope that it kind of works through the rules in those cases. And so much of some cases you don't see, but
Right.
it doesn't come out. Now, that said, I do appreciate that there is a board here, a community board that reviews cases that involve police abuse. Is that correct still?
Citizen.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
the
was on
citizen
that
review
board,
board.
and it's not effective.
Yeah, and I mean, as people, apply for that board, on that board, that board is
Yeah.
one thing. Also, I'm seeing, I advise our police department in Bel Air, I advise the department at Derby now as their attorney. But I'm seeing a lot more options for training, like for police. And, I know this sounds kind of boring, but I'm really excited about the real drive across at least the Midwest for community policing. And like really doubling down on that and what that means and kind of reviewing everything on a basis of you need to be in the community in a positive way. So when you have to be there in a negative way, you have that rapport, the people who are involved in the community. So those are just some things I'm seeing. Again, I think it comes down to involvement. Thank you for being involved. Sure.
Hi, I'm Parker Daniel. I'm a librarian from Wichita Public Library, but I'm speaking as a private citizen.
Me too.
I'm thinking of Judge Melgren and the recent controversy around the gang list. And I'm sure that you will have a long career ahead of you. I don't know where you see your career going. Maybe you will be a federal judge one day. But I just want to hear from you right now at this point in time, what you see as your legacy. What are you working toward in your career?
Question. I'm more than happy to serve right here where I am. I've got a lot to learn from as a judge in this role. I've got a lot of relationships to build so that way I can be effective. So I'm happy to serve right here in Central County. And if that's my entire career, then I will have done well. I hope my legacy is that, I think of my kids here, they're in the community here. And we have a 17-year-old son and 2 daughters. And I hope that when people who are coming along there like them have to interact with the judicial system, it's better because I'm in it and because I'm there and I'm in the community. So I hope to just leave our community better with the mind on the next generation. So that way, again, the bench is not so far removed from the people. So you can, work on problems together.
Do one more, because the food is ready and I know y'all want to eat. Mr. Bond.
I'm sorry, I'm not even sure I have a question, but a little more of a concern. I know as a judge, your parameters are by the legal system and the laws which have been built. And so I guess I'm looking more at your as the attorney. And so I guess what I'm looking at in here, this portion, when I look at minority professionals, Black professionals here, most time we assume here, we look for an attorney. Well, we know any attorneys in here, Black attorneys, we know any of those in here, doctors, medical associates. So I'm looking more for a professional network. Are there some that exist in here that are minority lawyers, doctors, and stuff in here that you guys affiliate with here or list with in here where are you and how do we find you? I'm seeing Voice or none of these places. Where are those places that you locate? We work on the assumption now, it might not be a good assumption, but because they look like you and they may be more sympathetic, more knowledgeable to the issues, and conflicts that you're gonna have, go to. We try and contact and reach out to those. And sometimes it's good because it can be true. But as a lawyer, it's more personal than that point about what their motivation is, how they work. In that portion here. But I do believe those associations and those things that in here, they help police and govern even the people that are a part of. They make hold each other to a higher standard of accountability, especially if there's more visibility as to where they are. So are there associations or things out there that point us to?
So there's not a formal association here in Florida. No, but there is, we have a bar association, so that association holds all of us accountable. The bar association is a group where when you're licensed by the state, you can also join this association, and it does trainings, it ensures that we're all trained on things. They were very active during and stuff to kind of train attorneys. And most of attorneys, we have 1,000 members plus, are a part of that association. And that association tries to work through issues, but it's any practicing attorney can
I'm
join.
trying to bring it down a little bit to a lower level because I'm sure the bar.
Right.
Is here, but.
Right.
Cause our first go-to and our first reaction is, let's find someone that looks like.
I'm gonna get there. So the bar association is the larger group. Different bar associations in different areas sometimes have groups like, a bar might have LGBTQ section, a Hispanic, a Black section. Our bar doesn't have that. So if you go to Chicago, there are sections of the bar. Here, there's not. So a small group of us is not so. There's a period after that. There's just not that here. When Robert Moody and I started practicing here, we decided to start doing a breakfast with Black attorneys and people who are interested in law. Where we just have breakfast on Saturday morning and we talk about anything. What does it take to go to law school? How are you doing with your cases? Whatever things might come up among that group. And that group has grown, and that group has been able to put together, Judge Jones is very active in it. She was able to spearhead a scholarship that essentially helps two minority students come back and practice here in Wichita, and kind of covers their expenses if they serve in the public sector. So that's huge. And since we started that group, we've probably gained some small 5 or 6 active Black attorneys choosing to come and practice here in Sedgwick County. Now that group is ad hoc, so we're not any kind of registration list, but it's Saturday morning breakfast group. Anybody can come. We just kind of try to provide a support system for practicing attorneys and those who are interested in law school to meet and to be supported.
Who thought, you're just a portion of needs and services that we need here. So when I talk about legal field, and I talk about the health field, and I talk about the accounting field in here, we don't have, say, that visibility or accountability to actually go to a director and say, hey, let's go. This group, we're gonna meet as professionals in here once a month or once a quarter and introduce ourselves and invite the public to come and meet us as professionals. Because you have to sometimes see people who look like you to want to be. So I just throw that out to you as those professionals here, in that network, in that circle in which I do that. Let's think about doing something like that. Maybe once a quarter, just host it. Sit down. I know your husband, he's kind of active in that stuff, so throw that to him too. Okay. All right, thanks.
Well, thank you all for having me. I hope to come back sometime on the other side of it and share with you things I'm seeing and encouragement or answer questions at all. So thank you so much.
Shout out to Books and Breakfast. I know that you all are hungry. Food smells good. Please eat before our next speaker comes up.
Okay.
Everybody hungry? There we go.